Alright, let's do our first Pyro simulation. So first we need DOM network and then connect to our source volume and name this to explosion sim. Simple, and go back to the first frame because it's a simulation, so it's gonna be slow. So dive inside this explosion sim, and here we're gonna make some pyro setup. So I mean, you guys can use on the shaft tool. There are lots of different pyro effects, but I always prefer to make my own pyro setup. So first of all, we need pyro solver and then smoke object, and then we need to resize our sim over time. So gas resize fluid dynamic, and also we need source, which is not the volume source, volume source. So this is just like a typical workflow, and then we're gonna need a ground plane as well, and also we need merge. So typically we connect this smoke object to the first input of this pyro solver and resize to second, and the last is volume source, and then we're gonna connect ground plane first and then pyro effects, and then finally output, and hit the L key to rearrange our node. So first of all, like, this is the typical basic setup, and then we're gonna need set our initial bounding box. The bounding box you can see here. Let's hide this ground plane. Here we have a simulation bounding box. The bounding box means everything happens within this box, and out of that box the Houdini won't calculate anything out of the box. So let's change this smoke object name to explosion, like a short name, and let's increase this size a little bit bigger, so 20, 20, 20, and then the center will be 10 as well. So the bottom part can be our ground level, like this. And then go to your volume source, and we're gonna change here something. An input will be the first context geometry, because our source volume is connected to our the first input here, so it's gonna be first context. And you can manually put it here like 3 volume here, but you don't have to do that because we already have this initialized setup. So change this to something else, like for example, I want to change this to sync, but then just to change it to source smoke again, so it'll make a nice 3 values, 3 volumes, like this. So here, if you see closely, so we need to understand what this source volume and the target field means. So the volume is typically called volume in the sub-level, meaning in the geometry level we call the volume as volume. On the other hand, we call the volume as target field in the dynamics level. So this one means the density source from the geometry level becomes density field in the DOMnet, like etc. here as well. So we understand we have here we have density and V. So we've got density and V here, right? And the important thing is the sub-level V becomes vol here. because the Houdini understands vol in the dynamic network. But where's temperature? We didn't have temperature here, right? So what we can do is just our sub-level density volume becomes temperature field in the dynamics. So we can do this like this. And just let's play. So if we play, it's gonna do some simulation. Congrats. You see, right? Yes. Also, because we have this resize fluid dynamic, it'll the bounding box will be dynamically changed, so it'll be more useful. And also, if it'll make efficient dynamics, right? Because it doesn't have to be really big box in the beginning, because later on we're gonna need big box to simulate every voxel, but in the beginning, because of the area of the particle are really small, so we don't have to waste our bounding box. So that's because of thanks to this gas resize node. But you see, like here, I just let it go, and then the bounding box changed a little bit. So we need to change this padding a little bit bigger. So in the resize gas dynamics, so if our smoke, the particle increase from the first frame, this is the ground, and it explodes, right? But then in the next frame, it'll be bigger, right? Much bigger. But then bounding box might not catch up this enough, so it should catch up, like a full shape like this. But then because of the smoke, the particle explosion is so fast, it might not catch the enough size of the bounding box, so it might make this not enough bounding box like this. So we need increase the padding. So the padding, if we increase the padding, the bounding box, the pre-calculation of this bounding box, it will be much bigger, so we can contain our simulation enough. So let's increase this padding to just 1. So you already see something changed, but in order to see the correct result, we have to always go back to the first frame. And before we play, let's make go to smoke object in the creation. Let's check this solve on creation frame box on. So that means just start the simulation from the creation frame, and the creation frame is this in the dot network simulation tab. The start frame is frame 1, so that means on frame 1 let's calculate these pyro effects. So that's why we already see the volume here. And then just play again. Yeah, I see some because we increase the padding, it becomes larger bounding box. Yeah. Yeah, and you might have noticed it's getting slower and slower. Yeah, let's be patient. Okay, here is the thing. And after it really tracks really well. This gas resize tracks the smoke where it goes really well. But then later on, it just don't really expand further, right? That's because if you go to this max bounds tab, because of this clamp to maximum is turned on, so let's make it turned off. If you turn on this, that means if the bounding box hits this initial size, it won't make it it won't expand anymore, so we have to turn it off. And let's before I play it again, let's this division size a little bit bigger so we can do faster test. So that division size is just you know, how many voxels do you want in the pyro simulation. So as you might have known already, our smoke simulation defined by this bounding box, right? And here we, in order to do like some pyro effects, we need voxels. The voxels, like small cubes, right? You know, more we have, if we have more voxels, it's gonna be higher details because we have a lot of enough voxel number, make it more like a smoother line. So for example, if we want to make excuse me, so for example, if we want to define these lines by a pixel, the voxel is pixel. The voxel is pixel basically, but it's called a volume pixel, so that's why it's called a voxel. So let me just use the pixel, the term. So in order to make define this curved line, we need much more pixels, right? If we have, you know, like this big pixel, we're not gonna make that smoother line. We're gonna make this steppy, you know, like this steppy line, right? We're not gonna get this smoother line. But if we have a lot of very, very smaller line, like this, right? We can get much smoother line, right? Because it's gonna make, I mean, if we zoom in a lot, we eventually see this steppy, but you know, from the distance, you know, like this, it's gonna make a smoother line here, right? So that's why more voxels we have, it's gonna make higher detail, like higher quality of a simulation, but at the same time it'll make slow simulation. So if we decrease this division size, meaning that means this is if we decrease the division size, if the division size is getting lower, that means the number of particles, not particles, number of voxels will increase a lot. And if the division size getting higher, it's gonna make less voxels, so much faster. This is arrow, by the way. So faster sim, and this is gonna make slower sim. But of course, high detail, and this is low quality, high quality and low quality. Excuse me. Okay, so what I'm gonna change is just increase a little bit, like let's just double it, and then link this copy parameter, this division size, and copy to here our source volume. So here voxel size, paste relative references, so it'll be linked. And now if I play it again, it's gonna be much faster, you see, much faster. Also because we turned off this clamp button, it won't be stopped. You know, it'll always follow the simulation. The bounding box will follow, and of course this size of box getting bigger and bigger, and that means, you know, it's gonna be slower and slower to calculate each voxels of inside this bounding box. Okay, cool. So you notice here we have like a blue bar here. That means it's saved into our memory, so we can just drag, like we can just go, you know, whenever we want, like this. But that doesn't mean it's saved to our hard disk. So this is just saved to our memory, right? So okay, cool. So from here, whenever we change something, whenever we make some changes onto our setup, we need some comparison with our camera. So when we compare like simulation, we need some consistent camera view. So let me just adjust our sim view like this, right? And then we can use we can make camera from here, this shelf tool, but we don't have to do that. We can just use our keyboard, the number 629, and you can, if I push the control button and then hit the number 6, and you see like a save quick view. And so whatever I change the viewport like this, and then I want to go back to our saved quick view and hit the 6, and it's gonna come back to our same view. So this is really handy. So from now on, whenever we have change, I want to compare from this view, and let's just copy this smoke name, go to creation and object name, right click, copy parameter, and here we need object merge. We need to get rid of that stereo, what is it called, that star sign. So paste relative references and middle click explosion object. But since this is volume object, we need the data. So data can be density. So let's view from here. So you see here. Okay, so what we can do here is we're gonna do some play blast. I mean, in Maya we call it play blast, but in Houdini we call it here we have a flipbook, right? And if you click, just push down this button a little bit, and then this new flipbook setting will pop up. And if you click this setting, you know, here you can do many settings, but we're gonna just go to size tab, and we're gonna turn off this resolution. I just want to capture this image as it is, and just before we hit the start button, just go to output again, and I'm gonna make this the frame range to, you know, of course this is gonna be 1 to maybe 60, and just hit the start button, and it'll capture, you know, our simulation, current simulation. I mean, the advantage of this flipbook is a lot, is really much, but you know, one of the advantages is we can, you know, we can judge this simulation as with real time, because the captured images, you know, are saved into our memory, so we can play the real time without any delay. So we see it's really cool. It's already doing cool thing. But there are some problem here in the beginning. You know, we see like this cut line That's because our source volume, the velocity volume is too much, so that's why it's going upward too fast, so the bounding box won't catch up that much. But later on it looks really cool. Okay, so I want to compare this. I want to make some changes onto this simulation. So in order to compare our new simulation from this previous one, we need to press this button, which is a start new sequence button. So click this button and then go to Windows and then click sequence list, and it'll pop up, the sequence list will pop up. So if we do another flipbook later on, it'll make another bar here. So yeah, let me show you in a bit. Okay, so let's make some changes. So inside this dub network, in the source, we used our V2 velocity field here, but the scale is too much. Typically I started with 0.1 here. I mean, you can just leave 1 here and here, but in terms of velocity, I always start with 0.1, lower value. And whenever you made some changes, I typically go to simulation and hit this reset simulation button. So make sure all the changes I made take account in this new simulation. And now this time I just don't want to, we don't have to pull this setting again. So just to hit that button just once, this flipbook button once, then it'll capture another simulation, and we see another bar here which is caching now, and we can compare this to the previous frame. You see how much it difference? So before it was too much velocity, so everything is going upward, so that's why it's making a giant mushroom smoke down there. But in the second in the new simulation, we don't see that anymore. So nice, this is nice. Maybe my camera is too far away, so let's make it a little bit closer so we can see some nicer comparison. So I'm gonna just capture it again, but this time, because I didn't hit this button, so it'll override this second flipbook. So I can start from here. Okay, if we see this simulation again, I mean, even though we changed the velocity scale, but still, like in the beginning, there's like a cut line here. So I want to get rid of that. That's because I guess in the beginning it's exploding too much, right? That's why this gas resize node cannot catch that depth, fast. So what I can do is we can use this delay frame parameter. So what it does is just it delays when this node is gonna take over its job. So if I delay, for example, like a 10 frame, during the first 10 frame, it'll be just using this initial bounding box size. So let's do that. So during first 10 frame, the bounding box doesn't change, right? Because we set it to 10. So after 10 though, it's changing after 10 frame, because after 10 frame, this gas resize node will take over the bounding box. So this way we can do enough simulate. We can make sure we have enough bounding box in the beginning this way. So I didn't set it to 10, just maybe 5 in the first 5 frame until here, or 3. Actually, I set it to 3. So during the 3, it becomes really, it contains enough, and then do the, rest of the simulation just to let this gas size node work like this. So there's no cut line anymore. So let's do another flipbook. I want to hit this button again and go to view 6, and then reset simulation button, and then do the another flipbook. Now we have a third one, so we can easily compare. Oh, okay. So that's that difference, because before, wait, oh, I sorry about that, I didn't save the previous sorry about that, I didn't save the quick view before. So let's go back to this delay frame to 0 again and go to 50, and once it's done, oh, let's just wait, it's not that slow, so let's be patient. It's almost done. Now it's done. So I said before I made our view like changed like this, right? I wanted to make it a little closer, and I forgot to I forgot to save our view. So let's do another Control 6. So save our view again, and of course we have to, let's just delete this third one and then do another flipbook. So this is gonna be our third one. So you see here is cut here. So now let's make this to 3 again and hit the reset, and hit the reset and do, oh, before do that we have to make sure we hit this start new sequence button and then do another flipbook. Now we can compare these two in the same viewport, same camera view. You see how much the difference is. Before, because it cuts the upper part, it didn't make enough smoke. Now in the same condition we have much more smoke going upward, because in the first 3 frames we had enough, we had enough volumes in the top part. That's why the smoke totally changed. Nice. Okay, boom. Okay, boom, exploding and then goes up. Very natural. Okay, so this is very cool, but I know we have to change a lot of things further, but if you see from my render, you see a lot of details onto the smoke, right? Even in the edge. So, but on the other hand, our simulation is just very smooth, mushroom smoke just rising up and without any details, and we're gonna make some changes for this. So go to this dub network again, and go to pyrosolver node, and we're gonna turn this off, turn this enable combustion off, because we're not doing the fire in the sim. I mean, this fire thing, I achieved the fire effects by my own setup, so I'm gonna show you later on, but for now just ignore this combustion and go to shape tab, and you see a lot of options here, but what we typically use is this dissipation and also this disturbance and then turbulence finally. So by these by these parameter we can break the smooth line. So we see these options are under this shape tab, but what we can do, we can make this we can create these parameters by myself. So let's make gas dissipate, and then also what else? Dissipate, disturbance, and turbulence. So we can make a disturbance, so gas disturb node, and also there's like gas turbulence node. So like same thing. You guys can use either, like you guys can use these nodes or just use power nodes. I'm not sure what the difference is, but a lot of people like use different way. Some people use just this power node, or many other people use these three extra microsolvers, and you can just merge these three nodes and merge, and then connect it to this third node, which is velocity update input, like this. Okay, so basically, in order to break the smoother line in the smoke simulation, you'll typically use these two different parameters, which is disturbance and turbulence. I mean, if I draw this, so if our smoke were like these, like this smoother line, we can use two parameters, which is disturbance, right? Disturbance. So disturbance usually break your smoke really tiny thing like this, like a micro smoke density, so that it won't make this smooth line. So, and then also you can also use turbulence. So turbulence usually make a much bigger noise pattern, so you can break the ship, something like that. So we can use like both of them. So let's use the disturbance first. So if you wanted to, if you want to use the disturbance in the pyrosolver, you should not use this gas disturb anymore. So let's just disconnect this first, and then turn off this turbulence, and just make it it was turned on, the dissipation was turned on, so let's leave it, and just make this disturbance much higher, like 1.5, and each parameter has the detailed information on downwards here underneath. And if you go to turbulence tab, you can set more detailed information here. And what I made was just turn on this use control fill, and I put density here. So that means you can vary the disturbance scale. So if we don't use this control fill, this power solver will disturb everywhere, so every voxel will get same disturbance. But however, if we use this density field as a control field, we can vary by the density field. So where it has more where it has more density, that voxel gets more disturbance, whereas where there is zero density, there will be no disturbance. You get the idea, right? So we can vary the disturbance scale by this way. Okay, so now that we turned on this disturbance, let's compare. Make sure we go to view 6 and make sure we hit this button again and do another flipbook. Okay, we see if you go back and forth, we already see something happening, right? You see these, previously we have like these really, smooth and smooth lines, and now we have like a little bit break, right? We broke the shapes a lot, right? Much better, right? Much better. Like this. Now what? Because we added some disturbance, let's add some turbulence. Okay, so turbulence, I mean, we could use this turbulence here in the power solver, but for consistency, I will do what I did before. So let's turn off this dissipation. So I didn't explain you this dissipation. Dissipation is just how longer you want the smoke will be. So if you increase this dissipation, the smoke will disappear fast. Or whereas if you decrease this dissipation, the smoke will last longer. So I mean, I didn't change the number, just turn off, and just I used this microsolver dissipate node without any reason. Just go to evaporation rate and make it just same value. Let me just double check. Yes. Oh wait, I decreased this a lot. I mean, not a lot, but I decreased this half, so it'll last longer, right? And then I bypass this disturb because we turned on disturbance. We're using disturbance in the power solver, so I just bypass this node, and then now go to turbulence, this turbulence microsolver, and here I made some changes. First of all, I changed this source size a lot higher, like a 15, and also pulse length is I doubled this pulse length. So the pulse length you can think of as the speed of the noise pattern changes. So the higher value will give us slower movement of the noise, and if you lower this value, the speed will be really fast. So the noise pattern will be changing a lot quicker. So I made it a little slower, just like 1, and rest of them I just left rest of them as it is. Okay, now that we added turbulence here, let's do another sim. So reset and break this flipbook and do it again, same process. Now this is stacking every flipbook, so it's getting longer, but okay, now we can compare. I mean, the disturbance will be same, but we added some turbulence, so the overall shape changed. I might have I might have entered a little bit big sword size this time, but I just wanted to same as what I did before, so just let's leave like that. Okay, so let's compare. So if we compare at the bottom, we see a lot of we see more volume here. That's because we decreased the dissipation parameter. That's why the smoke live longer, right? And then also because of the big sword size turbulent, we see different the breaking line here, the outline of the smoke. Okay. Okay, finally like this is what I did, exactly what I did, but finally I wanted to add some global wind. So there's like a uniform force stop. You just connect it to next to the smoke object, and then by default the force set it to 100. So that means it goes to the wind goes to the positive x value, x direction. So from this view, you see this little arrow, the axis arrow here. So the positive x is the right side, right? The red one. So I set this x value to 5. So, and then let's do another flipbook. Okay, let's see. You see now everything goes right side, because the right side is the positive x, and we entered 5 value in the uniform force. That's why it goes to right side. See? Yeah, that's it. I didn't do anything like crazy. Just wanted to make it like a wind or something like that, and goes to the right side, because usually whenever I see some reference, the smoke is always like after exploding, it tends to go somewhere like some direction, like left or right. So I just made it right side this time. So compare this, right? So okay. So once you're satisfied with this simulation, you have to go back to the your preferred division size, which was in my case it was 0.2, which is default value, but this is absolutely up to your own scene scale and up to your own project. It's not gonna be this 0.2, this number is not gonna it's not gonna be like a true value. It's gonna be always relative to your project. So you have to change this value, always change this value to if it's fit to your smoke, and it's enough, if it's enough or not, you have to judge. Okay, so since I changed this division size to 0.2, it's gonna make higher quality, so it'll be slower. Okay, but okay, let's do another simulation, just because we just changed the voxel size. Go to 6 and then do another flipbook. Yeah, it's getting much slower, but then we have higher detail, right? If we zoom in, especially here, higher value, higher quality, so we see more voxels definition, of course taking more time. And you know, even if we change the division size, it doesn't guarantee, you know, exactly same outline or exactly same shape of the smoke. It might change your simulation. You see, like it's roughly similar, but not exactly. So the division size affects your shape as well. So, and also important thing is here is okay, let's cancel this flipbook. I didn't make the smoke simulation from this sphere directly. That's really important. I mean, whenever you have to do smoke simulation, you always want to do particle simulation first, like we did here, but then convert it to volume, and then do the smoke simulation after that. That gives you always nice result. So keep that in mind. Okay, so now we're done here. I mean, there's first the smoke pyrolysis simulation. I mean, the rest part is just doing the same process of this. So before we go to the next step, let's just cache this pyro simulation to our hard drive. Okay, from this dot network, this object merge tab, we're not going to use this. This was just a display and visualization purposes. So after you do the simulation, I always make dot import fill and drag this explosion sim to here, dot network, and default object will be our pyro, which is explosion, this smoke object. So go to creation and copy this object name parameter, and here paste in the default object. So middle mouse, just to double check, and then we need to save two fields, which is density first, and then the second one will be the velocity field as well. But this velocity, if we visualize here, I go to a little bit like a 14, or just a little bit like a 10, or 6, frame 6, we see like a density and velocity field coming here, right? But because of the velocity, it's always like disturbing our viewport. So we can just set the visualization to invisible here. So we see only density here, but we do have both fields. And after that, we need to cache, right? So just make file cache here. But before we cache this two volume, I just want to I want to save more like efficient way. So what I'm meaning is just to split this value, this volume. So split this, select the density. So the left will be density and the right output is the velocity field. So before we save this, okay, let's create merge node, and then we're gonna eventually merge these two fields, but then make a volume sample. Volume resample, and connect it to the second output of the split node. So let's middle mouse click here. So we have velocity, only velocity, right? Density is this left one. So what I'm gonna do is here the resolution scale, the decrease half. So what we do is just the voxel size will be bigger. So before, without this, we see like 0.2 voxel size, right? But by doing this, we're converting to zero point 0.4, which is, you know, a much bigger voxel size. That means it's gonna be much lighter when we save this to cache. So because we don't want to change to our density, we just want to change to our velocity, because if we want to use the velocity field later on for whatever reason, we can always use this decreased velocity field. So it doesn't have to be that detailed, you know, information. So that's why I did this and then merge together. Then we see everything is here again. And then file cache after that. Yeah, before you hit the button, I want to make sure this name of the file cache node, because this node name will affect your file name, because we have $OS here, right? $OS. Okay, so make sure you set your frame range correctly. I mean, I did for this project I set the frame range to 1 to 200, and by the expression it'll automatically match your sim frame range. And then after that, here you'll save your files here in this directory. So if you don't know, if you're not sure where it goes, you have to, you know, middle click here so you can see where it goes and what kind of name I'm gonna get, right? So basically this $hip is your the directory where you save your hip file, and then after that it's gonna create a geo folder, and inside that geo folder finally you're gonna get this this file, and the file name will be exactly like this. So the $hip name is your current hip file name, and then after that it's gonna make a dot, and then after that $OS, which is your current file cache node name, which is in my case cache explosion sim, and then dot, and the rest is the Houdini geometry file extension. So when you middle click here, in my case under this directory, it's gonna make this geo folder, and inside geo folder it'll be, you know, this big large name. So my hip file is naming like this, and then dot, and then this cache explosion sim here, right? And then dot, and this 6 is the frame number, so because we have this $F here, so that is the current frame, so it'll make like a sequence of the BGEO and .sc. So this is just how you can, you know, make sure where it goes, where your save file goes. And then there's one more button here, this initialize simulation up. I always check this box on whenever I cache the simulation. So this button, initialize simulation, is the same as when you hit this reset simulation button on the top network node. So same thing. So I always check this box on, and then you can save to disk. You can hit this button, save to disk, then it'll, you know, do simulation and save the resulting files to here. But then later, when the sim is done, you just turn on this button, load from disk, which is what you just saved out, and you can just pull that cache out. You can just pull in to the Houdini. So if I display this, it'll make error because I didn't save anything, not yet. But this time I'm gonna use what I saved before, so I'm gonna put here what I saved earlier. So I'm gonna choose this file. So this is what I did earlier, you see here. So exactly same file as this. And I'm gonna put down a null and just name it out. And like this. Let's see, we have two volumes, right? We have two volumes, density and velocity. So now it's done, the main smoke is done. It's very simple, right? It's a pretty simple thing. So from now on, we're gonna, in the next chapter, we're gonna make rest of them, like the smoke trails and the ground smoke, but it's gonna be exactly same process as we did here. So I'm gonna expedite my explanation there. So see you in the next chapter.